and get started today on our amazing value add masterclass for our broker partners and brokers out in the field out there that are joining us today. Training your agents to have a fearless lead generation mindset. We are so excited to always be bringing high value when it comes to brokerages and agents and leading and coaching. I mean, we know what a big challenge it is for brokers to not only have the bandwidth for coaching and training their agents, but also to have the energy for it and the time. So the fact that you took out time today to be with us today means a lot. We're excited to have you here, and we're going to go ahead and get started. Today's topic is exactly this: training your agents to have a fearless lead generation mindset. All right, so let's just pause right here and say, this starts by hiring the right people. All right, we can automatically assume that. I have a funny quote that says, you can't push a dead bear up a tree. And sometimes, not to call agents dead bears, but sometimes we feel like pushing agents to lead generate is like pushing a dead bear up a tree. So I just want to remind you all today that if you have the right people, or you know who you have that just needs a little extra push and training, today's class is going to be about them. Recruiting people to this mindset and training your agents to have it. Some are going to do it, some are going to not do it. This is for those that want to make a difference in their lives and want to have more. When you as a leader can lead your agents to be fearless in their lead generation, you change everything, everything. And you really kind of close your back door. Your retention no longer becomes an issue because now agents see you as the key to their success, although they're the ones that have to do the work, right? All right, so guys, I'll remind you today that this is a webinar style. So if you have any questions, post it in the chat, and I'll do my best to stop periodically and answer any questions that you may have. And we do have a lot to cover today, so I'm going to move relatively quickly so that I can pack all of this in for you today and make sure that I'm bringing high value while also respecting your time. The objectives that we're going to learn today are how to identify the income difference being left on the table with your agents that you have, how much money is on the table when they're not in production, when they're not lead generating. What does it look like to create a culture focused on lead generation? We're going to talk about multiple ways to discover leads or generate leads, and we're going to help you help your agents select 3 main sources of leads based on their personality and who they are fundamentally. And then we're going to give you a simple and systematic and strategic approach to those sources so that your agents can be fearless in the things that they're doing. All right, so let's get started. Have you ever stopped to really look at the math? The likelihood is you haven't, because you may not want to see it. Guys, if you have agents that are underperforming because of a lack of coaching or training or leadership, you're leaving money on the table. There's a really quick formula here that you can maybe just take a picture of, that you can work on your own, that can help you identify exactly what the gap is in terms of profit increase when you get your agents into higher production. And I'm talking about the agents you currently have. We're not even talking about the ones that you'll attract to your brokerage when you help your agents succeed. Because remember, like attracts like. So once you get even just a handful of your agents producing at a higher level, they're going to start attracting that. Your brokerage will start attracting those producers at a higher level. So again, some quick math will help you determine what your total profit increase could be when you take your agents to 25 transactions, which is the goal that we would like to get them to, because that's $150,000 GCI, guys, and that's where you really start changing the game for your agents, okay? So when you have time, go ahead and do the math. You might astonish yourself at what's on the table when it comes to a total profit increase. So what does your business look like when your agents are producing a 25, 50, or 75% more? So you know what, let's just go ahead and say this. This is not about getting all 100% of your agents doubling and tripling their income. That would be amazing. I wish that could happen. In a magic wand world, we could do that. But we live in the real world. The real world says that you're going to want to identify maybe even 20% of your underproducers that could do 25% more or 50% more. Do not underestimate the value that that does and has on not only their lives, but your brokerage. What does your business look like when you increase your agents' productivity by simply helping them close the gap in their own lives? by helping them realize and be fearless and move forward in confidence when it comes to lead generation. And what would it look like if your brokerage had a constant culture of productivity? And the big overarching question today is, how does changing an agent's life change yours? Well, I know that here at the Locker Room, we are committed to changing brokers' lives. That impact ripple effect is to change agents' lives. So I can tell you right now, it's pretty big. It's monumental when we help brokers that then turn and help their agents and have resources and tools for them that they didn't otherwise have. So I'm just going to tell you, changing an agent's life changes yours drastically for the better. Impact is amazing. Let's talk about this. Why don't agents lead generate? Well, I have identified 4 main reasons in my experience and almost 20 years of being in real estate and the last 10 in leadership. These are the 4 main reasons: lack of fear of rejection, lack of time management, lack of skills, and lack of accountability. Now, as a leader, the change starts with you. When you change, everyone else around you changes. That we could have a whole topic on that. But for the sake of today and giving you some high-level tools to work with, I'd like to share with you one tool in your leadership toolbox that could help with each one of these reasons. I hope you're ready for that, because this is going to move quickly, and this is where you come in to the change. Reason number 1 is fear. They are afraid of rejection, or afraid of looking dumb, or afraid of not having the answers. So they don't lead generate. They don't make calls. They don't put themselves out there in front of their sphere of influence. They don't go to an open house. They just don't. They're isolated and paralyzed in fear. So the leader's tool number 1, when you, the leader, know their big why, you can speak language that's stronger than their fear. When you can speak to the reason why they're doing what they do, that should trump the fear. For example, if they're just afraid of rejection, and not just, but you know what I mean, if they're afraid of rejection, you can remind them that little Johnny's depending on them getting over that in order to go to the college that he wants to go to. Or maybe is getting over your fear standing between you and being out of debt? You guys, when you can tie their big why back to their fears, or help them relinquish their fear because their big why should be bigger, you win. You help them. This is knowing the difference, by the way, between pain and versus pleasure. So all humans, when moving towards an object, either move away from pain because the object is causing them pain and they move away, or they'll move towards pleasure. All right. Not everyone is moving towards pleasure. We often think that if we dangle the carrot in front of our agents and say, hey, this is what's waiting on the other side of you doing what you're supposed to do, you would think that would work. But it doesn't. Why not? The reason it doesn't work is because they're trying to move away from pain. Pleasure does not entice them to move. Pain does. So when you know their pain, now you can speak that language. So the way you find out their pain is, what will happen if you don't? That's the question. Oh, well, little Johnny doesn't go to college. All right, now we know their pain. So identifying, are they driven towards pleasure or away from pain? Know their big why. Make a point of having this conversation with every single one of your agents and document it, so that when you're on a call with them, when they're in your office crying because they just are afraid or they're not hitting their goals or whatever, you can speak to the true motivation and the emotion behind getting over their fear. Okay, this is number 1, guys. Most important thing you can do as a leader. Number 2, lack of time management. Leadership number 2. Are you ready for this, brokers? You have to lead by example. Yep. How are you managing your time? The best way to show agents what a culture of productivity looks like is for you to have a culture of productivity in your own life. That means that you're lead generating with your door shut purposefully and intentionally every single day. And they know that. They know that you're building your business, whether it be your sales business or your brokerage business. Are you leading by example, or are you running amok just like they are? I work with a lot of brokers. I know the answer. More likely and more often than not, our schedule controls, or our world controls us, not our schedule. So make sure that you're being time blocked and that you're managing your time properly. Again, this is a whole class in and of itself. Perhaps we'll do a broker time management class one day. But for now, I just want to encourage you to make sure you're leading by example. That is a tool, leading by example. Reason number 3 is lack of skills. All right, guys, here's where, when they don't know what they're doing, when you can teach them some basic sales language training, also known as scripts, you empower them to have more conversations. And truly, it's not even about learning word for word these scripts, although that's really important. It's really just asking them to ask better questions. It's that when a seller throws up an objection, helping them learn to answer it with a question, not verbal vomit, if you will, about why they should list with me. Rather, what is it you're looking for in an agent to list with? You see, it's about giving them the skills of questions. Again, this is something you can model for them. Here at the Locker Room, we have some amazing scripts books, the best I've ever seen for agents. And we have leadership recruiting script books too, that are amazing tools for agents to have better sales language. So again, lack of skills sometimes comes down to just knowing what to say and helping them work through and navigating objections, okay? And reason number 4, lack of accountability. This is a big one. Where no one's looking over, where no one's inspecting, we tend to just kind of do whatever we've always done, the default. However, if you can set up systematic coaching to their plan, you have their plan, which by the way, I'm going to show you in a minute how to make a plan with them. When you have systematic coaching set up around their plan, now they have to come and answer to it. Systematic coaching means you're either meeting as a group or you're calling them once a month to check in on their plan. Systematic means it's on your calendar and you're doing it consistently. They can come to depend on you or your coach or your trainer reaching out to them to simply ask them, where are you at on your plan? And again, I'm going to show you that plan momentarily, so don't lose hope. By the way, if they're not in some formalized coaching, then their habits are their coach. Their default mode is their coach. Their default mode is going to tell them what to do next. Their default mode is going to cause them to discover they want to do nothing, because that's been the easiest path of least resistance. Accountability causes them to stretch and think differently and to have something to work towards so that they can move in the direction that they want to move. And that comes through the form of coaching, plain and simple. Systematic coaching does not have to be something that takes up all of your days and nights. It can be in groups. It can be peer coaching that you set up. There's a multitude of ways that you can create systematic coaching in your brokerage. And we are going to talk about the plan momentarily. All right, so now that you have 4 basic tools, let's talk about what does an environment of productivity look like? And at the end of the day, an environment of productivity is culture. It's the culture that you want to create if you want your agents to join for the right reasons, the reasons of productivity. And a culture of productivity breeds a culture of productivity because, like I said before, it attracts the people that come into your office that want to do the business, that aren't dead bears, that want to be alive bears and want to hunt and eat and survive. That's what you're looking for. So the environment of productivity starts with you, Mr. or Mrs. Broker. Starts with you. It starts with you knowing that your office has to have the tools needed, has to have coaching set up, has to know all of your agents' big whys, has to have training in the afternoon so that your agents have the mornings to lead generate, has to make sure that you're modeling time management and lead generation for your agents. But I promise you that when you set up your environment to be an environment of productivity where, hey, if you're here, we win. If you're here, we produce. Guys, it's limitless what will happen to your brokerage and your bottom line at the end of the day and all the subsequent lives that you change that way. So now I told you I was going to share with you a plan. So let me introduce to you the ROI plan. It's called the 135 because as it's set up and structured, it's a 1 main business objective, 3 priorities to achieve it, and 5 strategies underneath it to achieve each one. And again, I'm going to break this down for you and show it to you. but we call it the 135 ROI because we've added a very interesting component to this that makes it so much easier for you. All right, so let me double check, make sure that we're good here. Looks like we are good. Wonderful. Okay, let's go ahead and jump into the ROI. Now, this plan is something that you create with your agents, or they create. You could do a training on this, and everyone creates their own. Everyone has their own ROI plan. You have an ROI plan. Perhaps recruiting is your objective this year. You would have a recruiting ROI plan. All right, so you have a plan. So this does not just apply to agents. This can apply 100% to you, Mr. or Mrs. Broker. Okay, so I want you to know this doesn't end with your agents. This means, again, you're modeling how to use this plan. So I recommend having a training once a quarter in your office for business planning or business review. And at the end of it, everyone has an ROI plan that is basically their lead generation plan. Now, there are 3 rules that I have around anything you put on that plan. The 3 rules are: pick something that you enjoy, make sure it's inside of your strengths, what are you good at, and make sure that it already has momentum in your life. Let me explain this. In my experience with agents, they tend to choose, first of all, way too many lead generation strategies. They're trying a little bit of everything. And a little bit of everything gets them nowhere because they're never mastering anything. They're never being consistent enough with any one thing, okay? So I just want to start by saying that it is important that they get, in this world, less is more, okay? I'm gonna plug up my phone. My charger just fell out. In the world of lead generation, less is more. It's not about having, 10 things you're doing. It's about having 1, 2, or 3 that you're doing consistently. Inside of those 1, 2, or 3 things, choosing things, hear me well here, choosing things that are in alignment with your life and your lifestyle. Not choosing things because that's what he does or that's what she does. No, it's about being very strategic about the lead generation aligning with who you are. And the 3 lead generation strategy rules that we've come up with that seem to work really well with agents are these. Don't pick things that you hate. Yeah, you're going to do them for a minute, maybe a week, maybe 2, but you're not going to do them for the year. Make sure that it's something you're good at. Every single person has strengths. Finding things inside of your strengths that you're good at is where you can get really creative and come to life and enjoy your lead generation. By the way, this thing should already have some momentum. Look at your life. What clubs are you at? Churches, gyms, kids' schools, memberships, charitable organizations. Where do you already have influence where you could be more purposeful and lead generate? So these are the conversations I'm asking you to have with your agents before they choose their lead generation methods. All right. Now, at the locker room, we have a really great resource for our broker partners and our agents. It's called the Behavior-Based Lead Generation. If you've ever heard about the DISC profile, this is a fantastic resource where truly an agent does their DISC profile and can choose the marketing and prospecting options that align closely with their DISC profile. This is amazing. I have seen so many agents that I have coached around this breathe a sigh of relief when they realize they don't have to do things they don't want to do anymore. Now, I'm not saying don't get uncomfortable, all right? That's not what we're talking about. We're just talking about choosing these consistent things you have to do in alignment with your personality. Because if you are an introvert and you don't like to leave your home, but you're super analytical, you're probably not going to want to do parties. However, you may decide to be a market statistics genius and do videos from your home that attract buyers and sellers to you because of your amazing expertise in numbers. This is what I'm talking about. Discovering and helping your agents discover A, who they are, and B, what they're good at, and C, how to tie that to a lead generation strategy. Again, this is about helping them be fearless. If it's something they're already doing that they just need to be more purposeful about, You're removing all the objections of fear and the unknown from the equation. So this is, again, a wonderful resource that we have for our broker partners to help agents understand themselves. All right, now we're going to dive into the ROI. I told you that there's one main objective, that's the goal. And then there are 3 priorities. These 3 priorities are categories, not just any lead generation strategy. We are getting very specific and drilling down on 3 lead generation sources. We're starting with the first one, which is our relationships. There is probably enough business in your agent's phone and Facebook for them to never do any cold lead generation. Do you believe that, brokers? Do you believe that? Because if you do, you'll have your agents open up their phones and see how many contacts do they have. I've done this with many agents, and they're blown away by the fact that they have 1,700 or 2,200, or they have, I don't know, 3,200 Facebook friends. What are they doing with those relationships they already have right here in their hand? There's gold inside of that. And it's free or very inexpensive, and it's so much warmer, meaning it's easier to convert. So in the first category, we call this the lead source of nurture business. Okay? You basically decide to nurture the current relationships you have. You identify the ones that are going to matter the most. You put them into a database. And then the strategies underneath are the 5 ways that we contact people: phone, text, face-to-face, email, direct mail, and social media messaging. And then helping them create strategies on each one of these. Okay, I'm going to show you what this looks like in a minute. But just for the purposes of review and teaching, I'm going to tell you that the first category is our relationships. What do they want to call their relationships program? Do they want to call it their raving fans plan? Do they want to call it a 36 touch? Do they want to call it a top 100 list? Whatever it is, you help them identify the goal that they have in their phone, whether it be 50 to 100 or 500 people, and they put those people on a strategic plan that in many cases can be automated through your systems and tools that you have. And then some of them require them, such as phone and face-to-face. And then they put those on their calendar and they just do that. And then now they're nurturing their business. These are people who may not have raised their hand, who don't necessarily have a need for buying and selling, but they will. And when they do, you want them to think of you. All right, so that's your nurture business. That's your first, that's your R. Your O is opportunity. Now, this was your now business. We call this the low-hanging fruit. Low-hanging fruit. Think about if you're, metaphorically speaking, agent were walking through a field, an apple orchard, and wanted to pick apples and could just reach up and pull one down. What is that equivalent in their world? Okay, where are buyers and sellers right here at eye level, where the agent can literally pluck them and get into conversation, brand new people they've never met before. They need to be doing one thing in this opportunity category consistently in order to feed the nurture business. So you choose one from the list. These are some: open houses, expireds, for sale by owners, networking, and internet leads. These are some, okay? So then you would help them choose one, not all of them. Hear me well, choose one, because what we're gonna do is help them create 5 strategies underneath it around that one, mastering it, getting better at it than anybody else, and just really drilling down on making it masterful and skillful. So imagine one of your agents just does open houses and becomes the open house queen or open house king. And all they do is work it for now business. They find buyers and sellers that are knock, 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 literally right now. And these people, when they meet them, are either ready to buy and sell, or they move into the nurture category, where the nurturing does the heavy lifting for them. So again, it's about choosing one opportunity, moving it into the relationship nurture category. Let's move on. Let's move over to I. I is investment. This is called new business. This is spending money or time and then forgetting it and letting it work. Isn't that, after all, what an investment is? It's putting something in and just leaving it alone and letting time do its thing. So you choose one from this list of these things, and then you base that on budget and time commitment, plus the 3 rules we said at the beginning: print marketing, cause marketing, strategic volunteering, social media marketing, geo farming, internet leads, and blogging. These are things that you do that don't necessarily yield immediate results, but time over time, done consistently, will begin to create opportunities that can then be moved into nurture. You see how this goes? It's about having a source of leads. It's just doing some heavy lifting always in the background for you. Having a source of leads that you can go pluck the orchard, pluck the apple right now, and then having a machine that's constantly touching and constantly nurturing all of these different people that you're funneling into the system. It's choosing one of these. I like to ask agents, what causes do you truly, truly, truly in your heart believe in? How can you create a marketing plan around that? How can you show up and volunteer without saying, hey, I'm a realtor, hire me? It's not what you're going to do. If you're showing up to volunteer at a worthy cause, you're just going to show up and be who you are and trust the system that the people that see you showing up consistently, that have a plan, that see you sponsoring events and see you, with your name tag on, that eventually that mind share that you're creating by showing up is going to work on their behalf. So it's about choosing one of these dependent on budget. Guys, listen, if you've got agents that aren't making money, you don't have to spend any money. Volunteering doesn't cost anything. In fact, I know an agent that volunteered didn't volunteer, was on a softball team, and his investment was softball team. And he showed up and he had a leadership position, and he just kept showing up and kept being the guy that just kept showing up and was in a leadership position until he had the funds to sponsor the jerseys. And once he sponsored the jerseys, his giant logo was on the back. And now every single guy on that team saw his company over and over and over again. And within that year, he became the real estate expert. And in the first year he did this, was able to find track 4 pieces of business that came from just showing up and playing softball. He was investing time. Now, this was taking it to a new level because that was fun. But it was also an act of servitude. He was showing up, leading a team, even though some guys didn't show up, and even though sometimes he didn't want to. He showed up, he kept being consistent, kept believing in the team. And then when he had the funds, he was able to sponsor and do other things financially. This was where he chose to spend his money in investment. So there we are. There's your ROI in terms of what the R, the O, and the I are. So now it's time for you to take action and for you to help your agents create their own ROIs. In fact, help you yourself create your own ROI. So I want to show you really quickly kind of what these can look like. This is a blank one here, and this is where you literally, we have this resource for our brokers, but this is where you literally write it in. I mean, it's as simple as just write it in. It doesn't have to be technical. This is a 1-page simplified plan. This is a filled out one. So this agent wanted to close 24 units in 2021 with a raving fans plan, open houses, and $100 a week budget on Facebook. Now, underneath each one of these, you can help or encourage your agents to create 5 strategies under each one. These strategies, I want to encourage you, need to be SMART strategies, S-M-A-R-T. It's not on the slides, but I'm going to share with you what SMART stands for in case you didn't know. It's specific. So you can't just say more open houses. It's got to be 1 open house. Well, look here, conduct 4 open houses a month, specific. It's got to be measurable. It's got to have a number. It's got to know when is it done? Check mark. Not more, how many? Attainable. Is it something that's realistic? Can you do 4 open houses a month? You can't do 4, maybe you can't do 14, but can you do 4? R, reasonable. Is it something that your lifestyle allows? Is it something that the culture allows? I know we're in COVID at the time of this recording, we're in COVID and some things just aren't reasonable. So think about what is reasonable. And last T is time sensitive. Make sure that you know how many, how often, and when inside of these strategies. So for example, conduct 4 open houses a month. Invite 25 neighbors to the open house on the day of. So you can see how these align with SMART goal setting. Now, these 15 items here are their lead generation activities. So when they're lead generating, when they're doing their one thing, when they're working their ROI plan, they're working these 15 things. That's it. They don't need to go do all these other things. They just need to follow through doing these strategies that they've set forth for themselves. I also want to pause here and say that in my experience, I have found that agents do these plans well for about a quarter. So what I've done with my clients and the brokers that I coach, I train them to do 1 quarter plans. Just do a 1 quarter plan. If you do a 1 quarter plan, you make an agreement with your agent that we don't change it, we don't edit it, we don't call it, we don't judge it. We just do it for 90 days. At the end of 90 days, then and only then, if you have been mostly committed to this, will we say it worked or did not work. And guys, you know this as well as I do. If they are mostly committed, 85% committed to this plan, meaning they're showing up, they're spending consistent time working on it, we know they're going to generate business for themselves. We know that we're going to help them with a fearless mindset, that we're going to help them get out of their own way so that they can achieve their dreams and their goals. All right, so this is really what we have today as far as training your agents to have a lead generation mindset. It starts with a plan. It starts with a strategic plan, one that is simple, one that's straightforward, and one that's SMART, S-M-A-R-T. Now you think for a moment. Imagine that you have this plan for your goal and every agent in your office has one. Imagine that you know the big why driving each and every one of the goals that's outlined on these ROI plans. Imagine that your agents are following a time block schedule where these 15 items are in a calendar and getting done consistently. And you, leader, are doing your 15 things consistently. Imagine what your brokerage will look like. Imagine, okay, so maybe that's too pie in the sky for you. Imagine that 20 or 30% of your agents have an ROI plan that they're working. What does that look like as far as a culture of productivity for you in your brokerage? What does that look like for recruiting? What can you say to agents when you're sitting across the table from them on how you help agents make more money? You can stand firm and say, I help every single one of my agents create a 1-page business plan that they're held accountable to and would check in quarterly. And it's a plan created around their lead or their disc profile and their strengths. And they love their plans because it's aligned with who they are and they don't hate lead generating anymore. And that's how I help agents make more money. Guys, that's powerful when you can lead that way. So today I just want to encourage you to adapt this thought process around one simple plan, aligning with who your agents are, knowing their big why, making sure you're leading by example, helping your agents with scripts, giving them the resources that they need. So important that you be that leader for them, help them have a fearless mindset around lead generation. So I don't see any comments yet in the chat. I'm going to give it another minute while I wrap up here today. But I also want you all to know that at the locker room, we have this and so many other great masterclasses. I am inspired every time I hear one of our classes because I know the heart behind the company and what we're doing and what we're sharing and how we're helping agents all across the United States that otherwise are struggling and otherwise are those terrible statistics of failure in our industry. So if you are interested in learning how to not be a statistic brokerage, please let us know how we can help you. We would love to show you what we're doing to work with our brokers and would love to be able to just partner with you and help you with a plan like this for your agents. All right, I don't see any other comments that have come in, so I appreciate everyone's time today, and I look forward to seeing you all again on our next masterclass, and we'll talk to you all later. Thank you so much.